Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to be carving a basswood dog rose flower, and this one's really fun. It's simple. I do think that it's good for those kind of dipping their toes into relief carving. Straightforward to the point. I used this 6-piece set here for this. Great tools, ash handles, brass ferrule, nice tempered steel. Look at that cute wooden box to store them in. Very happy with this set. I use it for this, so follow along. Also, if you want to learn more about carving this type of stuff, flowers, plants, people, especially people, I have an online school that has been developed over the last 6 years, and it's really designed to help you, those who are struggling with such things, learn to get better. I've been carving full-time for nearly 20 years now, 2 decades, and I'm kind of condensing all of what I've learned into this project that is the school. So check that out. Anyway, let's get into this project. So, what I've got here is a 4 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch piece of basswood. This is about 7/8 thick. An inch would work, 3/4 inch piece of basswood would work in terms of thickness. And I have my usual mounting setup here, which is very straightforward. It's just a wall mount, 2x6 or 2x8 mounted to a stack of 2x4s. Now, you could do a similar fixture. I have a video about how I make this as well. You can search up wood carving fixture and then my name and it'll come up, but I can link that too. Remind me in the comments. But the point is, I have it glued. I actually use this super glue. I really like this super glue. I'm not a sponsor, but M-I-T-R-E-A-P-E-L, Mitrapel, I don't know how to say it. And I use their accelerant. A few dots in the back side of this to hold it to the fixture board, and then I have the fixture board clamped to this backer here. Now, as far as this setup goes, again, you can use really anything that keeps your material mounted to a surface so that your hands are freed up. Generally, when you're using full-size tools, you don't want to be holding the piece of wood. You're bound to cut yourself. And so, to start, I wanted to just kind of draw about a 2 1/2 inch or 2 1/4 inch circle. The reason I want to do that is to simplify the forms of this flower. So we'll start with that. I lied, 2 3/4 inch circle. I'm not really going to measure it exactly, but it is closer to 3 inches. So, I mean, I can do so, might as well, right? Make a little marking here, a little marking here. Let me just extend that over a little bit. Just kind of mark the boundaries of it. Not a perfect circle, of course, but close enough. And then I'm going to divide it up into 5 petals. So I'll do that. I try not to make it too perfectly symmetrical in terms of like, this top petal being right at the top here. But just because, let's put one here. Well, we can mark our center as well. Just kind of approximate where the center is, and I can always double check my work here, see if that checks out. Pretty good. Yeah, not bad. Alright, so I've drawn one petal, and really the easiest way to do this is just kind of divide it into fifths right away. Kind of helps. Okay, that's pretty rough, but we can always adjust it. There we go, that's better. Pretty good. All right, divided that into fifths. Go ahead and take the corners off. Round those out. And I'm going to make this, since it is a dog rose, it's going to have a very big stamen. Always forget how to say that. So I'm going to draw that about, I don't know, 3/4 inch in circumference. Sorry, in diameter, 3/4 inch in diameter. Anyway. Now there really are a number of ways you can go about outlining the carving, I like to use the V tool to kind of outline the whole thing first. So I'll kind of go over these lines, including the center area here. And if you're seeing that black stuff left behind from the tool, it's because I polished these. These aren't brand new out of the box. I did end up using them a bit. I don't remember for what purpose, but I did end up using them maybe in a class. And so touched them up before the video. But really the nice thing about the Flexcut, and there, you know, a lot of brands kind of come decently sharp, but Flexcut really does come out of the box razor sharp. So it's good. It teaches you what sharp really is, and I think that's important. So I'm going to make a few passes around the stamen. Go around it like so. Now this is a nice sizable V tool, so it gives us the ability to get some pretty good depth in the center here. So we'll go over it a few times, making passes each time a little deeper than the last. Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to go over the outside or outline of the flower. And it really doesn't have to be a perfect circle, so don't stress too much if your circle is a little too small or isn't perfectly centered on the block, although you could go ahead and measure if you wanted it to be perfectly centered. Some folks be like that. I'm not as particular. So. All right. You can already see it's a little off center. That works. So I'm just coming in. Coming along the outline. Deepening that outline cut. Okay, going along the whole thing. And we'll repeat this outlining process. Just going along. Could use a mallet for this as well if you have a mallet. Sculptor's mallet looks a lot like this. It's a little round thing with a handle, and you can use the larger tool. This is the number 3, 25 millimeter or 1 inch, to kind of go along and outline it, make a stop cut all the way around, like so, and then go in and relieve that cut. All that stuff, that's another way of going about it. I just happen to like the V tool, but if you have a hard time pushing the tool through the material, you might find that the mallet will help you. A lot of folks that are lacking in strength will do that, or just want to save their energy. It's not a matter of always just being weak. Okay, then I'm going to go in and divide the petals up. Not worried about a little overcut there. Nicely divided. Those look pretty even to one another. Not bad. Within the ballpark. Yeah. All right. Now I can use the V tool to separate out the petals by using the profile, facing that V out to separate them out, going straight in, just like so. See how we've separated those out? We can even tilt the V tool one side and use the side wall of that V tool to make a little bit more of a separation between each petal, one to the other. Just like that. All right. Same thing over here. Beautiful. Go all the way around. And back to that concept of the mallet, it's really especially nice for these cuts that we're doing here where we're punching in, coming in, separating those out. Now I'm going to grab the 11mm number 7. That's this guy here. And I'm going to begin to cut towards the center of this stamen. So just a few shallow cuts. Really I'm emphasizing 2 main cuts because I kind of want there to be a little raised ridge on the outside edge here, or in the center part as well. All right, so I'm coming in. Making 2 little trenches and not being afraid to kind of come all the way to the edge of the petal. I'm going to work my way around like so. And already you can start to see the shapes that are taking form here. Beautiful. I would say one of the most common things people miss here is they don't take these cuts all the way out to the edge of the petals. So I want to see a bit of variation in the kind of depths of these cuts. So some high points and some low points. So I'm coming in here, a little bit of a higher area. Maybe I'll come in at the edges. So I want to create that uneven edge, right? That gives it a natural edge. Then we can come back in with our V tool, going around the stamen, just clean that puppy up. Right. I'm going to go into the center of this stamen with my V tool, create a little circle. You could draw it out in advance. This is, not very large, something like a 1/4 of an inch or less, honestly probably less in terms of the size of this circle. The outer diameter is, 1/2 an inch. Inner diameter about 1/4 of an inch. There's a little circle on the inside here. And again, the goal here is creating this stamen detail. I'm actually going to bring this circle part in a bit, so I'm going to use the flat part of the V tool to kind of shave this inside part further in so that this outside ring stands above. Beautiful. All right, you guys got this. If you're struggling now, this is only going to get easier from here. Really getting the big forms in is kind of the hardest part. And really, I'm going quickly. I'm trying to make a video and get it all in. You guys can slow this down. You can take your time. I've been doing this for, as a full-time gig for many years. So if you're just doing this on your own, you're like, geez, I'm way behind on this. I'm way slower. Well, again, be nice to yourself, and if it's relaxing, it'll be fun. So try to take your time, try to make this something that you enjoy. It's going to make the process way, way better. All right, I'm going to take a little break from the outline here, and from the flower itself to focus on the outline. So I'm going to go back to the 7mm the number 7 11 millimeter, or what is that, 7/16 inch gouge. The same one we used on these petals, and I'm just going to go around radially, creating these kind of nice little rays. And this is really, speaking of rays, a nod to the Disney carver, Ray Kinman. An amazing carver. I really appreciate the way that he goes about creating these very obvious cuts, revealing the process, really. So he'll go in and create these radial cuts, and it shows you that this piece is carved in wood. So I'm going to go around with these cuts, kind of moving straight in underneath the petals. And we'll have to do this once again to clean up underneath. Come in with the V tool, turn it inward so that the V, the point of the V is facing underneath the petal, slightly underneath, kind of angling like so. So I'm not going straight in, I'm turning it, and I'm cutting up and under the petals to kind of create this undercut. See how that cleans it out, just like so. So we'll kind of repeat that all the way around, making our radial cut marks, again with the 11 millimeter number 7. Working our way around. And it just gives you this really pleasant, natural feel. And I try to keep the groupings relatively consistent. They don't have to be perfect. That's kind of the point, really, is just to kind of show off the fact this is hand carved. And it kind of gives the carving a ta-da. Really like this style. Going all the way around. And I like to leave a little bit of a border around this flower, just to kind of frame the piece in the same way a picture frame kind of keeps the boundaries of the picture as a part of the design. I like to kind of build this piece of wood into the design by leaving a little leftover outside edge. Just working my way around. Okay, I'm going to come in, again using that V tool, we're going that inside edge, cleaning up underneath the petals. And if you accidentally bump the textured background, well, when you accidentally bump that textured background, not a big deal at all. We're just going to come back in anyway with that number 7 and recarve, kind of clean up any cuts that we messed up from this process. Look at that. Beautiful. All right, now you might notice as you're going through a project or two, your tools eventually get dull. I wanted to quickly show you one of the things that I do with all of my tools mid-project. I take a leather strap, I keep a leather strap nearby. This is a bigger one, and it helps for the sake of the video. And also, it comes from Flexcut. Rub your honing compound onto this surface of the leather. Really, you could use cardboard, you could use a hard wooden surface that's nice and smooth. Rub some honing compound on there. And once you've done so, grab whatever tool needs being stropped. In reality, you're going to need to strop your tools pretty often as a woodcarver. So I'm going to lay the tool flat against the strop. And what I mean by flat, the bevel, right? This is the flat, sharpened edge or part of the tool. It's considered the bevel. I'm going to rest that parallel. So the tool should look something like this. And you can kind of feel it when it hits that flat spot on the tool. And I'm going to drag it back. And as I'm dragging it back, this is where it gets a little advanced, I'm going to rotate. I'm going to rotate my hand a little bit to accommodate the subtle curve of this gouge. This is a number 3, by the way. This is the 1-inch number 3. So it'll be kind of like this, a curve. So I'm going to be kind of holding it so that this section here is flat against the strap, dragging it, and you should see material being removed. See that black stuff? That is metal coming off of your strap. Pretty neat, right? Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, so I'll do that to my tools periodically as I'm moving through a project. With the V tool, a little more complicated, but same idea. Laying it flat against that bevel, like so, and dragging it. And then I'll flip it onto the other side as I'm pulling it. So that way I can catch the center and the two wings. So I like to keep a hand strap nearby because I'll often hand strap. I also use the power strap. Really, I call it a power strap, but it's just a buffing wheel and a cheap angle grinder to get in the tight corners, for instance on the inside edge of a V-tool, or maybe the tighter corners of a vaner, such as, or a 9 like this one. This is actually a vaner, but either way, it's just important to have something to get into the inside corners. Flexcut makes a tool for this as well. It gets in a lot of the corners of the pro size tools. The strap is, the buffing wheel is really nice to have. I'll show you that in just a second. All right, now as far as using the buffer, I just have a stiff cotton wheel. I dress it with some honing compound. In other words, I just rub some honing compound on the surface of that wheel. And then I'll use it to get the inside edges of these gouges, but also the outside edges as well. Helps to get some of the remnants of wax or compound that is left behind by the strap. Same thing with the V-tool. Turn the V-tool so that the blade is facing the direction of the wheel. In other words, you don't want to be cutting into the wheel, obviously. And then I'm going to use that again, strap the outside, and we're razor sharp. And if you don't have a buffing wheel, you can just use a scrap piece of wood. You can take the tool that you want to get the inside bevel strapped, and you can use the tool to create a profile. You can then rub the compound on the surface and then drag that tool over this edge, and you'll see again it's doing its job. It's taking material off of the blade. And that will catch the inside bevel. Another way to do it if you're trying to make do with what you've got. And that is very, very sharp. All right, just a few more steps and we're home free. Next thing I want to do is I want to create some texture for the stamen. I'm going to come in and I'm going to make some radial cuts. I'm going to be going, splitting this into quarters, like so. And again, don't worry if you accidentally bump something, you can always come back in and clean it up. Divide it in half again to eighths. And you can get as detailed with this as you want. You can really get carried away if you like that idea. You can simplify this also if not. And I'll come in with that V-tool and I'll just extend that cut to the outside edge by turning that tool like so and doing kind of a similar punch cut. Excuse me as I bump the camera. Let me move this camera. Doing a similar cut as we did this outside edge, but kind of punching in with the V-tool with the point facing in, like so. And the good news is if you bump the leaves, or the petals rather, not the end of the world, we can always come in. Or rather, when you bump the petals, we'll always be able to come in and clean things up once again. Get that nice shape going. And this is going to be kind of a stylized approach. So not super ultra realistic in terms of the way that we're representing the stamen, but there's a limit to how far we really want to take this, right? Next, I'll use the V-tool again, I really like to use the sidewalls of the V-tool to come in and kind of round these little nodes or little pieces of the stamen. So you can kind of use the V-tool as two flat chisels. Just kind of be aware of where that other side of the V is at, so you're not cutting things you don't want to cut. But just coming in and kind of rounding. This is a little bit of an advanced step. I'm just taking these corners out further and kind of taking wherever you see a hard corner as it relates to this outside edge, I'm just using that little flat of the tool to round it. You can also grab your 7 and use the 7, just the corner of the 7, to do the same thing. It will work really well, the natural curve of the tool. To kind of come in, just use one side of that tool to come in and kind of round these little nodes. Okay, so I'm further rounding these bad boys by just coming over with the same 11mm number 7, just using one side of the tool. Save a lot of money on tools when you start to learn how to use all the facets of the gouges that you have. In fact, the great Alexander Grobovetsky said that when he started carving, he was given one tool by the great master who was his instructor, and he said that he had to use that tool, I believe it was for a year, before he was able to use any other tools in the shop. And you know, this is a man who had probably thousands of tools at his helm. He was only allowed to use one, his student was at least, and he learned to master that tool. And it's really very important to be able to understand how to use all aspects of the tools that you have instead of just jumping to buy another tool as soon as you see it on the market. You can use this 6-piece set to do so much. You can use just a few tools to do so much. As you can see here, right, we've gotten a lot done. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of clean things up. I'm going to very gently, not removing a lot of material, just go around the edge, the outline of this stamen, and also kind of cleaning up the leaves, any overcuts or bumps that we made there, kind of going in with that texture, really focusing on deepening these two grooves running on either side of each petal, kind of the lateral edges of the petal. Beautiful. And you'll have some hairs or some curls sticking to the stamen, and a couple different ways you can go about that. You can get the V-tool back out and clean it up with that. If you have a knife, you could also go in with said knife and clean that up. Let me grab one of those. Oh, I have one right here. Go around, make a little stop cut all the way around each little node, and that will likely get rid of these little guys, these hanger-oners. Not using a ton of force here, just kind of go around. A little bit of pressure. Today I'm bumping my camera a lot, huh? Don't know what that's about. Too much coffee, huh? Guessing. All right, beautus. Clean things up. And if things don't get cleaned up, or if those chips don't leave, go back in with that number 7. And we can always come in with a little bit of sandpaper at the very end here if we wanted to clean it up a bit more. But that's looking really quite nice as it is. All right, I'm going to go back around, make sure that I've got some nice cuts with my V-tool as I went around with undercutting. That when I went in with that V-tool to kind of undercut the petals, I may have damaged these cut marks a bit. So I'm just going back in, reestablishing them. Shallow cuts here, and a little bit of a scooping motion. I'm like lifting just a touch as I get to that petal, just to free that little chip out. You can also come back in here with a little touch of sandpaper and clean up underneath the petals If you really want to get carried away, you can go underneath each of these petals with a knife or a small V-tool or a flat gouge and really kind of clean them up and get them nice and thin. But for these purposes, especially if you're doing something like this on a piece of furniture or you're doing a wall hanging piece, the less you undercut, the more rigid the flower is, the more durable it is. But just that little touch of undercut will make the petal almost magically kind of lift from the background, which is what I love about relief carving, is you can make the illusion of something really, really magical happening, where this starts to kind of come away from the background, again, because of these shadows that we're getting here. And a lot of it has to do with that V-tool, coming in with that V-tool and turning it slightly inward so that point is kind of turned like so, and we're kind of going around undercutting. You can get that knife once again and kind of clean things up if you really want to get it extra nice. And I might do a little bit of that here and there just to clean things up. But really, guys, that's the idea. Another thing you can do to really finish this off, and I like to do this, is to take the same 7 and go in between, go kind of like in the center of each petal and do a little cut, indicating one of the features of the dog rose. There's this little indentation right here. Whoa, bumping the camera. Let me get back just a little bit. Okay. Going straight in with that. This really adds a nice detail. And you can come back in with the 7 to undercut. My goodness, I love bumping this today. Beautiful. Go in, clean up underneath. Any cuts that you bumped, you can go ahead and fix. A little undercut with that same number 7. In other words, turning the tool upside down and getting a little bit of a go at the underside of the leaf or the petal. Classic mistake in the petal for the leaf thing. Got to do that in this video, right? It's necessary. All right. Cool. Well, that's that, guys. You can take a little touch of sandpaper, as I said. If you want to take this to a really fancy place and you want to get a little bit more of a detail going that really kind of sets it apart, you can take your small veiner. This is the number 11 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter, and you can come in, you can create a little divot at the edge, right in the center, sorry, not at the outer edge, but in the middle of each petal. Kind of accent that groove that we just created. And that makes this nice kind of final touch. Bada bing, bada boom. Can go in, add a couple of little strokes here and there if you find any flat spots that you missed. Use that gouge to kind of add a little bit more character, mix up the cuts a little bit, make the edges a little more lively, not so flat, like so. Here and there, just like that. You've got a beautiful flower. Grab a little 220 sandpaper, fold it up, work around these edges, clean up some of the loose hanging stragglers, hit the sharp edges off of the outline of this bad boy. But this is a really kind of simple and fun way to create a pretty realistic, pretty fun dog rose, which I think is just a really beautiful flower. We were on quite a few walks this summer. We have been so far, at least, and we've really enjoyed seeing all the beautiful wildflowers, and including these guys on the walk to the lake here. You can go back in if you lost any of the separation of the petals with your V tool. You know, maybe you went a little bit deep on one area. You can go back and redefine that distinction between the petals. Even go in with a knife and separate them more yet, but I'm plenty happy with that. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Per usual, God bless you guys. Take your vitamins, and we'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, and check out the online school if you want to see more relief projects like this, including flowers, other types of plants, and all types of human portraits as well. All right, bye.